My camera's not focusing today. I hate it. Oh, I thought I saw something. Ooh. Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel, Loreen HD, for a new video inspired after a comment I received on my Instagram from a viewer who shared with me that following their diagnosis, they felt as if their future was changed forever and as if somehow their freedom had been taken away from them. Obviously, depending on how you used to approach your dating life and sex and all things relating to that, you might have to make a few adjustments. But actually, before diving into how it messed with your sense of freedom, maybe let's start with asking ourselves what freedom is. Freedom. All of this to land on a pretty concise definition of freedom for me, which is when you don't let anything or anyone prevent you from doing what you want to do. And then obviously I opened it up and I had to ask my Instagram following what they thought freedom was. And so reading about all these answers of freedom, it got me wondering, is freedom, like with a capital F, like unlimited freedom and unstructured freedom, is that really a good thing for us? This is a concept that we understand for kids, where we really understand how kids need a certain structure that they can then play freely into. But if their parents was letting them do anything and everything they wanted to do whenever they wanted to do it, I don't think we would consider those parents to be doing their kids a favor. But somehow as adults, whenever there's something and we have laws in place that are supposed to monitor that our freedom is not obstructing anyone else's freedom, but as adults, this idea that anything could limit your freedom is not really welcomed. Is not a thought almost that we're used to process. The thought that I want to share, or that I want to bounce off of you in this video, is that herpes doesn't change how free you are, but it changes how free you feel. And it sounds like a little like potatoes, but actually it makes a huge difference to be able to label that perception or that feeling correctly. Because if you think about it, you still have all your cerebral functions intact, your bodily functions intact, your mobility is intact. So I guess what I'm trying to say is nothing got taken away from you. You still very much are operating exactly the same as the day before you got diagnosed with herpes, and this can be different according to the level of pain that you currently are in. But in the long run, once you recover, most of all from that first outbreak, which is by far the most painful for most people, it won't affect your everyday life, where you will have to learn to live your everyday life like differently again from a physical standpoint. However, if nothing has been taken away from you, something has been sort of added to your plate, and that is the expectation from you first and foremost, because you have a conscience and you have a moral ethics, the expectation that you will act responsibly. And this pressure, this responsibility, funny enough, can sometimes feel too much for us. And this same person, again in the same message, was saying how the idea of disclosing their status to each and every partner, even in situations like a one-night stand, where you might not have all this connection, like respect and appreciation for this other person, is just someone who has chemistry and you're connecting on a physical level with, how this pressure and potential embarrassment and potential rejection, all of that was too much to handle. And so instead of stepping in that situation and having that one night stand, they felt like removing themselves from those situations were actually a safer option. And so, is it herpes that prevents you from having one night stands, or is it you and knowing that you would have to disclose? Is it you and that responsibility that you have preventing yourself from being in those situations. So sure, there's a possibility of that person like not wanting to be physical with you after you disclose them that you have herpes, but that possibility was there all along. You know, they could have not been into you after they kiss you, and somehow the way that you kiss, it doesn't match with the way that they like to be kissed, or your smell doesn't, you know, help the chemistry grow and feel, oh my gosh, again? Hello, I'm here. Can you focus on me? Hallelujah. When I sing to you, you then listen. What was I saying? The possibility of not being a perfect match was there all along. And you know about all those possibilities, right? And they're not preventing you from still going for it. So why would you let the possibility of potentially being rejected for herpes prevent you from trying? And did you know that a study came out, wait, I'm gonna read this so I'm getting it right. A study reported that even after being told that their partner had an STI, 68%, let me repeat this, 68%, now I'm getting out of focus again, great, went ahead and hooked up with them anyways. So back to my point about herpes not taking anything away from you, but actually adding something to your plate, which is adding the moral pressure that you will be responsible and disclose to your partner and take on all that emotional distress. You know what that reminds me of? Who that reminds me of, actually? My parents. Busting my balls to be a grown-up and to do what is right over what feels right, but ultimately, you know, just pushing me to do the right thing. And if I can share this with you, you know, after 6 years living with herpes, I realized that actually, sure, it's a pain in the ass, literally sometimes, but it has pushed me to do the right thing in a few areas, and 3 in particular that I want to mention is, 1, it pushes me to look after my body. It pushes me to really seek the amount of hours of sleep I need, the quality of sleep that I need. It pushes me to look for ways to manage my stress and anxiety, to look at the nutritional value of what I eat. And I don't mean just like looking at like the amount of calories, it's like just trying to research what is likely to spark outbreaks versus what is not, and trying to have that in mind. Doesn't mean I eliminate completely certain things from my diet because of herpes. It just makes me more aware of the consequences that could happen when I eat certain things and when I don't. 2, it taught me how to talk about sex. Like I didn't know how to talk about sex. I didn't know how to talk about sexual health. I knew I was supposed to talk about sexual health, but because I didn't know how to and I felt uncomfortable, instead of pushing and exploring that discomfort, I just ignored it. And I think that is a pretty typical pattern. So yes, this conversation starts with me disclosing my status, but it's not, there's so much more value that comes out of that conversation than just that. First, I get to ask my partners to, like, when was their last STI check, and what were the results, and if they have any experience dating someone with an STI in the past. But then this conversation goes much further. It goes, you know, into sexual preferences, into boundaries, trauma, kinks, like anything that actually we should be aware of each other so that we maximize the chances of our physical interaction to be as pleasurable as possible for the both of us. So definitely grateful for that lesson. And the third one is that herpes reminds me that I'm not perfect. And I'm not saying that I'm not perfect because I have herpes. I'm saying that I'm not perfect because perfection doesn't exist. In all the videos that I've made since I contracted herpes, there's so many mistakes that I made in handling my diagnosis with other people, in handling myself after my diagnosis, and all of these challenges and all of these lessons that I've learned just reminded me that this is all a journey, that I'm not coming in this journey ready and perfect and equipped to go through it in a way that won't provoke any pain. So it keeps reminding me that, you know, herpes is a challenge, has been a challenge. It's something that I'm working with, and I think it makes me a better person. I think it makes me a person who's much more empathetic, a person who's more aware of the behaviors and the situations that I want to put myself in, also more aware of other people and where they're coming from. So now I turn to you. In what ways did an STI diagnosis push you to do the right thing, and in some ways have maybe limited your sense of freedom, but have made you discover that you were exactly as free as you were before? You just had to, you know, push yourself maybe a little further. Write me in the comments below, and if you want to write me personally, you can DM me on Instagram at LoreenHD. It's getting so dark in here. It's 4 o'clock in Berlin. It's winter time. It's really depressing. But anyways, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Ciao. This is not even funny.